So you have cerebral palsy, right?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us about cerebral palsy for someone who doesn't know what it means or how it affects your life?
Oh yeah, for sure. So for me, it's gonna be different for every single person that has CP. Um, that's like the short acronym for it.
Welcome to Raccoon Talk, a podcast where we dive into the garbage of the world. Today we have a discussion with Andreas, and we talk about the neurodivergent and disabled community and how to help them. Andreas DM'd us on Instagram asking for an interview, and it was really great getting to talk with him. So, hope you enjoy. Yeah.
And for me, it's gotten for me. I've had it for my entire life, so I haven't been able to walk or do anything like that. So I really don't know what I'm missing on. I use a transport board to get up into certain things, but I'm very physically able to do some stuff. So I know what it's like to be treated not very nicely. So I help out. I know what I'm doing. For one thing, I know how to speak to kids. I know how to calm them down and stuff like that. I find it difficult to try to talk to people because they don't know how I learn, and they don't know how to talk to me, and I think that like gets them weirded out because they don't know how to talk to me. I don't know how to talk to them and stuff like that. So
Is there a certain thing that you came in mind with today that you wanted to talk about?
yes. So the biggest thing for me would be inclusion. Because I know what it's not. I know what it's like to not be included in things, and I do have to say, my teachers in the special education department do the best that they can, but I really am not really included in things, and I have to force myself to get out there. And at lunch, there's a little corner table area with a bar, and that they have us sit over there because it's a contained area, and I don't really like that. I don't have to say that sit there for per se, but for kids who need extra support behaviorally, they need to sit there.
I don't I don't I think I talked to you about this. I think it's really weird that they just straight up segregate special ed and the general population. I don't like that we're completely segregated. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, they, they do the best that they say they can, but my some of my classmates literally are not independent and literally need any adult to watch them at every second of the day, because if they don't, it could be very dangerous. And so what they are being put in, they're being put in the inclusion classroom. I'm not in the inclusion classroom. I'm in the OCS classroom, which stands for Occupational Course of Study. But the classroom next door to me is called the inclusion classroom, and it's not very inclusive. They have them staying there pretty much all day, and no adult can take their eyes off of them for any point of the day because they are physically violent, not because they want to be, but because they don't know how to control their emotions. They don't know how to talk correctly, and so someone like me, I know how to talk to them. So I do the best that I can.
Oh, what do you think about casual use of the R slur? Cause I've heard a lot of different things. I've heard some people that think it's okay as long as you're not trying to be discriminatory. Some people say it's very wrong because it has a ableist history.
Uh, yeah, that's a good question. For me, I say it's wrong altogether. I don't think people should use it, especially because when I found out what that meant, that really hurt me because I am part of the disabled, I guess, community and mentally disabled. But it's wrong, to be honest, because you can't just say that and expect them to be okay. And the only reason why they're not reacting, why my classmates are not reacting to that word, is because they don't know what it means, and because we try to shelter them from any swear words. Because if they hear swear words, they will say it because they don't know what it means. They think that it's okay to say it because other people are saying it. So we try to shelter them because if they hear words like that, they're going to say it. Like, you're gay. Like, people don't think that's a big deal. But for somebody who doesn't understand what that means, they could say that, but not know what that means, but get themselves in a lot of trouble just because they don't know what that means. So we try to shelter them from any sort of thing like that.
Going back to like you being in the same class as people who have like mental disabilities and have to be around people, or I guess being in the same area as people who have to be around adults all the time. Do you have like, does it like bother you that to have to be around these people, or is it like hard to deal with these people, or is it easy?
I absolutely not. I mean, it's. I love being around them. Like, I love getting to go out with them. I love getting to laugh with them. I absolutely love when they understand a problem or they get a word right, and I love seeing how excited they get. And I love it. I there's no other word to explain it because you don't understand unless you have the passion like I do for special education. And it's there are some days where it's hard. Don't get me wrong, because some days I don't want to be a part of EC because I just want to be able to talk to people, and I have anxiety talking to people because it's hard because I don't know what it's like, and I think things are so easy, and it's really not. So, yes and no, mostly no, but like. Yes, but in the case where some days I may not be feeling it, I'm like, I just don't wanna deal with behavioral issues that day, something
Is
like
there
that.
like any misconceptions that you really hate about like your classes that people have that you would like to address?
Are you talking about special education classes, or just in general?
Um,
Because
yeah,
there's a
special
huge
education
difference.
classes. I don't know if that was like the right
Um.
term to call it, because a lot of people say like mean things about special like ed.
Oh God, yeah. People use it as a joke. They use that word as a joke. Oh, go back to special ed. Oh, you should be in special ed, and I'm just not for that. So, there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to what we can do and how we can learn. So, we have IEPs, which, if you don't know what that stands for, that's individualized education plans. And in those plans, it states, what can I get read out loud on? What do I need modifications for? And how to give those modifications. And at the beginning of each school year, my case manager, which is the EC teacher, gives them to the general education teacher that I will be having, and they legally have to follow it because it's like a legal thing. And like what what I guess the most biggest misconception is that we don't do anything, we don't learn anything. That is simply not the case. We pretty much learn the exact same things that you do, but it's a little bit different because it's just modified. It is literally just modified, and people take special education as in like a big offense, like you're dumb, which is not the case. I love getting to work with people with autism, Down syndrome, all sorts of life like that. I just love it. So
That's
So, do you think that special ed should be sorry, do you think that special ed should be separated from the general population?
absolutely not. as far as lunchtime goes, they are put in a corner, and that's just it, because nobody else sits there. So the teachers just put them in the corner because it's contained. But I think if you are mentally able to handle um being around other people, I think they should be allowed to 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 be able to interact with everybody. And as far as if it's segregated or not, no, because it's like in the middle of the building, the EC department. You walk right past it, and people don't even know they're in the EC hallway. It's between the hallways where they do the cooking classes, and it's kind of in the middle of everything, but they do that because they don't want people noticing it, which I think is wrong. I think it's
All right, guys. Now it's time for the big question. What do you think about Helen Keller?
Helen Keller, if she's real, props to her, but blind and deaf and drove a plane, kind of sus.
All right, I'm a Helen Keller believer. So basically, Helen Keller, she was born blind and deaf, and she managed to learn how to speak and write and do all these things. And I believe that she did it, but it's only recently that I learned not everyone believes that Helen Keller actually was able to do that.
I think it's absolutely amazing that she was able to do that. I'm sure there was tools to be able to help her. I'm not sure exactly what those tools are, but as a society today, there's a lot of ADA devices where people who are deaf use like a iPad, and that's how they speak, and that's how they communicate. And I'm sure there was something similar to that, but in a little bit simpler way. So I'm that's just absolutely amazing. Yeah, I think that's just absolutely
I
incredible.
honestly don't know that much about Helen Keller, and I was joking. If there's any Helen Keller stands in the comment section, I'm so sorry if I offend anybody with my comment. I'm just kidding. But honestly, if she could fly, if she could write a book, fly a plane, do all that, write an autobiography, do all that kind of stuff, then props to her. You know what I mean? Like girl
Okay,
power.
she didn't fly the plane by herself. She had like someone there, and she just took the handles for like 12 seconds.
Listen, girl power. I support women's rights, and I remember like watching a video in elementary school about like the water thing, and like them writing like water in her palm under the pump. And I remember being like, "Wow, so cool."
Do either of you want to talk about like disabled history? Did either of you do research on that or the history of special ed if you want to go there?
Um, For me, all I know is my experience, and my experience has not been the best experience. So I try to help my classmates, and I try to give them the best experience as possible, and I try to make them realize they're no different than everybody else. They're the same, pretty much the same as everybody, and I really try to encourage that, because I know they love hearing that. I know when they get something right, they get so excited, and I just love seeing their faces light up. So all I can say is, from my experience, I want to make sure my classmates have a much different experience than I did. If you don't mind me adding something to the conversation,
Yeah,
um,
keep going.
to be honest, when it comes to the puzzle piece, do you know what the puzzle piece stands for? If you don't, that's okay. I know what it stands for, but when it comes to autism and autism awareness, do you know what that stands for? What
Yes,
original?
autism. I know it stands for Autism Speaks, but I also know that that's not a good organization that actually helps autistic people.
No, it is not. It is not a good organization. When I first found out what the original puzzle piece meant, it meant it meant the first picture was of a kid crying in a puzzle piece, because of how different they were, and